care about. I can particularly speak to the people of Texas who are bearing the brunt of the failed border security, the failed immigration policies of the federal government. I had the opportunity to visit an ICE detention facility in Aurora, Colorado this past Saturday. I was out in Denver for a summit, a Western Conservative Summit. I was visiting family members, and I saw this terrible story of individuals rushing the ICE facility in Aurora, Colorado, and taking down the American flag, defacing the American flag, then raising the Mexican flag.
Well, gentlemen, you'll just second?
I will.
Because I was going to bring this up, and I'm glad you did. What happened to the day when migrants came to this country to cherish liberty and freedom and become enrolled in the beliefs that we have, to assimilate? And I appreciate you bringing that up, because those aren't friendly signs, to take down the American flag and put up the Mexican flag in our country. I yield back.
I appreciate the gentleman's question. I think it's an important question. To take down the American flag, deface the American flag with the words abolish ICE, to turn it upside down and re-raise it, to raise then the Mexican flag alongside of it over this ICE detention facility. I went there the day after this occurred. I met with the individuals running this facility, both ICE.
You read the note at the bottom. All 95 members vote to impeach.
What did I find in the facility? It's a detention facility that houses 1,200 individuals. It was clean. There was doctors' offices. There was medicine. There were ping pong tables. There were iPads to watch news in home countries. There were televisions. There were video game stations. There were 3 square meals. There were clean bunk beds. There were people from 57 countries. Only 29% of the people in there are from Mexico. Traditionally, this ICE facility has 80% of its occupants coming from individuals that are brought in there from interior enforcement, usually violent criminals or people who have violated our laws other than immigration laws. And 80% are usually of that population. Now, 80% of that is from people who are flooding across our border. Overwhelming border patrol. ICE has no beds, no place to put these individuals who have violated our laws. And as a result, you see the overcrowding in the border patrol facility. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle have for months on end been refusing to acknowledge that there's a border crisis. Only awakening in the last several weeks to finally acknowledge that there's a crisis. To finally agree to pass only humanitarian aid, that is dollars to go to HHS, the office, ORR, to take in individuals, unaccompanied children, to place them. But then restricting dollars for ICE. Why? Because I think that the Democratic caucus is run by 4 members of the caucus. I don't think there's a single speaker. I think there's 4 speakers. And I think those 4 speakers are deciding the policy for the Democrat Party. And I think as a result, we saw precisely what is happening. We have no resources for ICE. None. We are vilifying ICE. We are vilifying Border Patrol. Speak to the Border Patrol agents on the border who are holding the line, defending the United States of America, while cartels have operational control of our border. While the Gulf Cartel, the Reynosa faction, Los Zetas, the Cartel del Noreste, the Sinaloas, they are using human beings for profit. They are using children as tickets to sell access to the United States. Why are they doing that, and how are they doing that? My Democrat colleagues know full well the answer to that, and they don't care. They don't care that cartels are abusing our laws for profit, that they're doing so in a way that violates children, violates women on the journey, a third of whom are abused along the journey. And they do so knowing that Border Patrol is overwhelmed and refuse to do anything about it.
The fucking Democrats are telling
I
them.
don't know what my colleagues think about this, but why is it that we've got about a week left before we're going to adjourn for a 6-week recess, and yet my Democrat colleagues are going to do nothing on the floor of this body, the People's House, to address calamitous situation. Nothing to provide the resources necessary for ICE. Nothing to address the fact that they only provided $200 million for ICE with restrictions on how the money may be used. When Barack Obama, former president, asked for $762 million for ICE in the wake of the unaccompanied alien children that were coming in 2014, and this crisis is multiple times worse. What are my Democrat colleagues going to do next week to
Nothing.
solve this problem before they leave
Nothing.
for 6 weeks? What are my Democrat colleagues going to do to save the little girls and the women that are going to get abused in the next 6 weeks when everybody adjourns from this body to go off to fundraisers and trips and go back to their districts while our border is on fire? What are my Democrat colleagues going to do? I'll tell you what they're going to do. Absolutely nothing.
That's right.
And it is an embarrassment. It is an embarrassment to this body, the people's house, that we are looking at a southern border that is being violated. We're looking at the sovereignty of the United States being violated. We're looking at little girls and women being violated by dangerous cartels, and my Democrat colleagues would rather waste time on the floor of this body with meaningless resolutions. We spent time yesterday doing what? Taking down the words and having a vote on words that were a result of a resolution against a tweet.
Yeah.
That's what this august
That's
body
what it
did
was.
yesterday. That's what they spent their time doing. Did
They-
they address the border crisis? No. Are they going to address the border crisis next week? No. They are going to send us into the August recess, barreling towards deficits well over $1 trillion, with people streaming across our border in violation of our sovereignty, the detriment of our security, to the detriment of the well-being of the migrants who seek to come here. And they're going to do that to go home and do absolutely nothing about the problem. So that would go to ask my colleagues. Are we going to allow this body to adjourn next week?
Yep.
Are we going to leave the floor and go home for 6 weeks and allow that to continue to be the state of affairs at our southern border? I think this country deserves better. I think the migrants who seek to come here deserve better. I think we should sit down and roll up our sleeves and do the job the American people sent us here to do. Secure the border, balance the budget, provide health care freedom, make sure our men and women have a clear mission and the tools to do it, and to get the hell out of the way of the American people. I yield back to the gentleman.
Appreciate the gentleman's passion.
We
I
would have
appreciate
the money
you
if we
bringing
didn't
these things
spend it
out.
on
And this is something we
stupid
have sent
shit.
President Trump, and I'm going to say tonight, I implore President Trump, in fact, I'm going to challenge President Trump to reconvene this Congress at the beginning of the August recess, and I would do it every recess from here on out until this body comes to grips and solves this problem in a bipartisan, bicameral way, because if you don't do that, Congress will run out, like the gentleman said. They're going to go fundraise. They're going to get ready for the next election and tell everybody how great they did. Yet this problem is getting worse. President Trump, you can do this. It hasn't been done since 1948, and that was President Truman. And he did what was best for this body. And I can tell you one thing. When you invade the personal time of members of Congress, you get their attention. And I think it's time we do that. I for one will stay here. I think this needs to be done. This is such a critical issue. At this time, I'd like to go over a couple more facts. I've got them right here. These numbers, the source is total CBP enforcement. Custom Border Patrol. Apprehensions in 2017 for the total for the year was 526,901. 2018, that number, because the word had gotten out, the drug cartels are very good business people, unfortunately. They're not ethical people. They're not people I'd want to have next to us. I don't want them in my country, but they're very good at what they do. The apprehensions in 2018 was 683,178.
Wow.
Now get this. If people will not come together in a bipartisan way, they don't need to be in Congress when you hear these numbers. Apprehensions year to date, 2019. Keep keep in mind, 2017 was 527,000. 2018, 683,000 for the years. 2019 to date, the end of June, 787,161. Folks, when are we gonna do this? If not now, when? We gonna wait till there's 20 million people here? 40 million, 50 million people? At this time, I would like to yield time to a great friend of mine, another great
There's
Texan.
nobody in the room. Nobody. It's empty. These two or three guys are, they're gonna,
Florida, and I appreciate you
Nothing.
taking the time. This is
not
something I'll be
anybody at the
talking
desk,
about every day,
anything.
Because it is a crisis, it makes a difference,
Oh, this fucking country is fucked.
helping destroy our country.